Always have known that this was not the end. It was only the beginning of our fight to rescue the American dream. In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
It's very hard to trust people these days, especially hard to trust the people who run our country. The old madman will soon face big problems because the presidential election of 2024 is just around the corner. Donald Trump says he's officially running for president in 2024. After nearly 2 years of teasing that he plans to seek another term in the White House, Trump announced his campaign at the Mar-a-Lago Club in Palm Beach, Florida, on Tuesday night. America's comeback starts right now, the former president said before explaining his priorities for the nation. We are here tonight to declare that it does not have to be this way. Later in his speech, he said, "In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States." Trump's early announcement comes amid investigations into his conduct on Jan 6, 2021, when a mob of rioters stormed the U.S. Capitol on his behalf in an attempt to stop Joe Biden's election victory from being certified and his handling of classified documents after leaving office.
Yeah, good morning. After hours of discussion and yesterday's chaos at the Capitol, it is final. Congress solidified Joe Biden as the next president of the United States in a defining moment led by Vice President Mike Pence.
The whole number of electors appointed to vote for President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, a majority is 270. The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Joseph R. Biden, Jr. of the state of Delaware has received 306 votes. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 232 votes.
It was all to prevent Trump from being re-elected. With numerous criminal and civil investigations in progress, experts and insiders predicted that the twice-impeached public figure would ramp up talks of a third presidential campaign in an attempt to distract Americans. They were torn, though, on whether he'd actually follow through. He fears losing in 2024. He hates being known as a loser, former National Security Advisor John Bolton previously told CBS News. He'll talk about it incessantly. He may even announce he's running, but when it comes down to it, he won't run.
The comments President Trump made a few hours ago where he basically said that he was winning, had won, but now the election would be stolen from him were some of the most irresponsible comments that a president of the United States has ever made. We don't know what the outcome will be. It's entirely possible Trump could win, but he has cast doubt on the integrity of the entire electoral process purely for his own personal advantage. It's a disgrace. If a state's not done with its count, then it simply won't cast its electoral college votes. There's not a state governor in this country that wants that embarrassment. So one way or another, I think everybody understands that although it may take longer this year because of coronavirus and other complications, you get to a decision. This shows, I think, why he's not fit to be president of the United States. He has a responsibility as president, notwithstanding he's also a candidate, to give confidence to the people that the integrity of their votes will be assured.
Trump left after one term in office in January 2021, becoming the first president in modern history not to personally welcome his successor to the White House by attending the inaugural ceremonies. Instead, he flew to his members-only club in Florida while Biden was sworn in. The former president has stayed tapped into politics since leaving office, hitting the midterm campaign trail alongside several controversial Republican candidates this year.
Do you believe if Donald Trump were elected next year that he would try to stay in office beyond a second term? That he would never leave office?
There's no question.
You think he would try to stay in power forever?
Absolutely. I mean, he's already done it once. He was stopped, thankfully, and for the good of the nation and the republic. But he said he will do it again. He's expressed no remorse for what he did. You cannot count on a House of Representatives led by somebody like Mike Johnson to stop this president. You can't count on a Senate of Josh Hawley's and Mike Lee's to stop Donald Trump.
Republicans' lackluster performance on Novin 8 and voters' clear hesitance to support Trump-backed candidates led members of his own party to request he sit the 2024 election out, or at least wait to make an announcement until after Georgia's Senate runoff was called. The Republican Party is still Donald Trump's party, and it's too late now for GOP leaders to throw him overboard. Dave Aronberg, state attorney for Palm Beach County, tells People. Most of his supporters are loyal to him, not the Republican Party. So if Trump is not the nominee in 2024, he will direct his base to sit home or go elsewhere. And they will.
Well, I want to thank everybody. This has been some period of time, and most importantly, we want to thank the great people of Iowa. Thank you. We love you all. What a turnout, what a crowd. And I really think this is time now for everybody, our country, to come together. We want to come together, whether it's Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative. It would be so nice if we could come together and straighten out the world and straighten out the problems and straighten out all of the death and destruction that we're witnessing. It's practically never been like this. It's just so important, and I want to make that a very big part of our message. We're going to come together. It's going to happen soon, too. It's going to happen soon. So it's now off to New Hampshire, a great place. We won it last time, and we won it both times, and we love it. The people are great. But you know, the truth is the people in our country are great. They're all great. We love Iowa, but they're all great.
With every hour that passes, Donald Trump's grip on the Republican Party's 2024 presidential nomination grows tighter. Every day in which his opponents aren't gaining ground on his position is a day in which he gets nearer to appearing on the ballot next November and nearer to possibly being inaugurated on Jan 20, 2025.
Let it happen. We cannot let it continue. We're going down, and we cannot let it continue. Last night, I was honored to receive the endorsement of a man who has become a true leader and earned the admiration of so many patriots. I've been a friend of his, even though we were competing against each other.
We're going to make this happen, and you guys know this well. You know this man. You know why we're here, patriots across the state.
To many observers, there's an incongruity to this. After all, recent days have also brought new awareness of Trump's plans should he be inaugurated on that day. Plans that are often unvarnished embraces of an authoritarian use of power. Trump plans to root out disloyal bureaucrats and install ideologically sympathetic ones. He's speaking openly of using the Justice Department to target his opponents, including to hobble possible political opponents. And that's just to name two recent examples.
Where there is a true and total breakdown of law and order, then the federal government can and should send the National Guard to restore order and secure the peace without having to wait for the approval of some governor. In 2016, I declared, I am your voice. Today I add, I am your warrior, I am your justice. And for those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution. I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. So on day one of my new administration, I will direct the DOJ to investigate every radical DA and attorney general in America for their illegal.
During his first term, Trump's administration was staffed in part by people with long track records in government who understood the balance of power between the branches and the limits on presidential authority, however acquiescent they were to Trump's pushing those limits. Some of those who played such enabling roles have been increasingly vocal in their opposition to Trump's efforts to regain power. But this is why Trump plans to ensure that a second administration has no one in it, at any level, who will stand in his way.
Here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all, and corruption it is. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them.
Given all of this, given Trump's increasingly explicit rhetoric about shifting the chief executive position toward authoritarianism, it seems difficult to understand how he's still running, even with President Biden in early polling, or in some cases leading him. A bevy of possibilities emerges. Is the media failing to inform voters? Are Trump-supportive voters tuning out media that's reporting on his intentions? Is he simply seen as the lesser of two evils? Parts of each of those are probably correct. But there's a broader, simpler explanation too. For many Americans, a turn toward authoritarianism isn't seen as a negative. Many Americans support that idea.
When one looks at what's happening in Western Europe now, and I would guess what's happening here, one of the things that one notices is that people somehow have come to find democracy inefficient. There is some way in which, sometimes I think actually that the single greatest democratic virtue is patience. Because, not only because of the complexity of the issues and the complexity of the structure of governments that are required to address these issues, but also because if you are going to have checks and balances, you are going to slow things down to the point at which citizens may find their governments emotionally unsatisfying.
Last month, PRI released the results of its annual American Values Survey. The pollsters asked respondents a slew of questions measuring their views of the country and its politics in the moment. Included among the questions was one that specifically addressed the question of authoritarianism. Did they think that things in the U.S. had gone so far off track that we need a leader who would break rules in order to fix the country's direction? About 2 in 5 respondents said they did. That included nearly half of Republicans.
You're completely right, Stuart. So you have Donald Trump. When he speaks, he's off the cuff, he's funny, he's engaged, he knows policy. You compare that directly to Joe Biden. If you see him, he stumbles, he mumbles, he can't find his way from a helicopter to a car that's right beside him, waiting for him. It's a real distinction between the two. But I think what's fascinating, Stuart, you follow politics, you've watched it, you've been in the media for a long time. The fact that in 2016, the Republican Party was still grasping onto the ideas of George Bush and John McCain. Donald Trump, as you saw on Monday night, has completely revolutionized the Republican Party. It is a populist party. It is a America First party. It is a no useless wars party. And I think a lot of people look back to those 4 years he had in office and they go, listen, I want more of that. That's what I want. I don't want to be worried about my government and politics.
Back in early 2016, political scientist and consultant Matthew McWilliams identified support for authoritarian tendencies as a key indicator of support for Trump among Republican primary voters. Before the 2020 election, he revisited the idea, noting that approximately 18% of Americans are highly disposed to authoritarianism, according to their answers to 4 simple survey questions used by social scientists to estimate this disposition. Those questions addressed several different components of authoritarian sympathy, McWilliams explained. One asked a question, similar to PRRI's, about willingness to let a strong leader do what he or she wants. Another centered on perceptions of the media. A third focused on opposition to diversity.
Well, Sean, it's great to be with you. Listen, last night was decisive. It was a dominating victory for Donald Trump. I got to say, there's no place like the Iowa caucuses. I know it intimately. The men and women of Iowa, they take their responsibility incredibly seriously. They scrutinize the candidates. It's an amazing process, and I'm a big believer in letting democracy play out. Well, last night it played out, and I got to say, Trump's victory was across the board. He won 51% of the vote. He won 98 of the counties. Congratulations to President Trump on that dominating victory. And at this point, I believe this race is over. So I am proud to endorse Donald Trump for President of the United States. I look forward to supporting him enthusiastically, because I think it's time for the Republican Party to unite, for us to come together.
The American National Election Studies survey conducted around presidential elections included questions that approximated the ones asked by McWilliams. Less than half of respondents objected to the idea that we need a strong leader, even if the leader bends existing rules. A plurality of conservatives endorsed that idea. Less than half of respondents similarly expressed concern that the government might want to muffle critical reporting, with a plurality of conservatives again expressing a lack of concern about that possibility. Most respondents did say they thought diversity made America a better place. A plurality of conservatives, though, said they thought it made no difference. They were 5 times as likely as liberals to say it made the country worse. These are measurements of authoritarian sympathies in the abstract, which indicate that a lot of Americans shrug at the idea of a strong leader acting outside legal boundaries. But again, we can see that explicitly in 2024 polling. CNN's most recent polling, conducted by SSRS, shows that Trump leads Biden nationally by a 4-point margin, statistically even.
All right, welcome back to The Hill. A new poll out today from Morning Consult is spelling some trouble potentially for President Biden's re-election efforts. The poll of 7 key swing states includes Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, really the ones that experts are watching. And it finds that President Biden trails former President Trump in 5 of those states. You see the numbers there. He is down 4 in Arizona, for example, down 5 in Georgia, tied in Michigan, up by 3 in Nevada, so on and so forth. You can see the 7 states that matter there.
Republicans right now would have a 40-seat majority in the House. I mean, everyone said Biden's approval rating is underwater in the midterm elections. Sentiment about the country and the economy was upside down for Democrats, and yet, because Republicans continually step on their own ability to message things like the economy, areas that they can win on.
Even given Trump's response to the 2020 election, though, and the myriad criminal charges he faces, respondents were 5 points more likely to say they would be proud to have him as president than said the same of Biden.
My fellow Americans, our movement is far from over. In fact, our fight has only just begun. We are one movement, one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. So with American pride swelling in our hearts and American courage stirring in our souls, I say these words to you tonight. We will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you, Ohio. Thank you. Thank you very much.
CNN's poll also asked people to measure Biden and Trump on personal characteristics. Most respondents said that they thought Biden had respect for the rule of law. Only about a third said the same of Trump. But remember, 49% of respondents prefer Trump over Biden, meaning that at least 14% of respondents both think that Trump doesn't respect the rule of law and want him to be president.
Did the courts reject President Trump's fraud and other allegations, his Department of Justice appointees, including Bill Barr, Jeffrey Rosen, and Richard Donahue, did as well. President Trump knew the truth. He heard what all his experts and senior staff were telling him. He knew he had lost the election, but he made the deliberate choice to ignore the courts, to ignore the Justice Department, to ignore his campaign leadership, to ignore senior advisors, and to pursue a completely unlawful effort to overturn the election. His intent was plain: ignore the rule of law and stay in power.
CNN also asked whether Americans would refuse to ever support either Biden or Trump. A majority of respondents said they would never support Biden, edging out the percentage who said the same of Trump. The issue of Trump's legal challenges is itself instructive. For years, he's argued that investigations into his actions are inherently political, efforts to subvert his political success. He frames this as an elite response to his fighting for average Americans, a message that resonates with his base. Despite the obvious evidence for Trump's wrongdoing, the Capitol riot, the documents found at Mar-a-Lago, the attempts to overturn the election results in Georgia, most Americans told YouGov pollsters in August that they viewed the charges as intended to block Trump politically. About 4 in 5 Republicans held that view. That they would then shrug at Trump doing the same to his opponents is unsurprising. Since Donald Trump announced his candidacy in June 2015, the press has been criticized for failing to accurately convey what he wants to do with presidential power. Again, this has at times been fair criticism. But the reason Trump is doing well in the polls at the moment is not simply that people are unfamiliar with his stated authoritarian intentions should he be inaugurated in January 2025.
So based on the first results and our Fox News voter analysis, the Fox News decision desk can now project that former President Donald Trump will win the Iowa caucuses.
He will take the lion's share of the state's 40 delegates. This result really solidifies his place as the current frontrunner for the nomination. Former Governor Haley and Governor DeSantis fighting for second. And this is really going to maybe last a while because it's a close race right now, how we see it based on the numbers we're looking at. You know, the former president, overperformed in the rural parts of Iowa, but it has been overwhelming, some of these numbers from these precincts that are already starting to come in.
It's also that a lot of people support those intentions. Trump will be the one who can make America great again, and the old madman will retire and answer for all his missteps and corruption in the country. Share this video and watch other videos on the channel because there is news that will definitely shock you.